Good morning and happy Boxing Day, everyone, if that indeed is something that any person ever says. Anyway, I'm saying it. Happy Boxing Day. I hope you're managing to find some peace during this festive period as much as you can, and some joy maybe in there as well. Now, this is a time of the year that I have always particularly enjoyed because we remember welcoming Christ into the world, and also because there's lots of lovely food and presents and all sorts of other things. So perhaps maybe I don't always think of it fondly for all quite the correct reasons, and remembering Christ should be at the middle of Christmas and not getting buried under a pile of Christmas presents. I'm sure he's poking around there somewhere trying to get acknowledgement underneath all the Christmas food and whatnot else. But part of that, getting buried underneath it all, makes me think of watching my youngest's Nativity this year at our school. Primary one, it's time to do the nativities, as all the schools seem to do now. And there Alex is doing her nativity that we're watching live. Not quite live, though, a couple of weeks after the fact on YouTube, which we didn't actually know which day she was doing the nativity, and it ended up being a daddy hair day, which she went in, that we realised later on when we were watching it that it was a daddy hair day, and you know there's no question that daddy did the hair that day when you see the video. But anyway, we're watching this, and I'm not exactly feeling the theological prowess on display as I'm watching the nativity show. Now, that's maybe not quite surprising. We are there for the fluffy, warm feels of the nice traditions of Christmas and the cute kids saying cute things, and not quite so much for the biblical exegesis. But there you go. Anyway, still, cynical old me, it annoys me very much, and actually that has kind of annoyed me since I was a primary school kid myself. And what I mean here is that thoughtless repetition of Christian tradition without the real meaning behind it, where Christ kind of becomes buried underneath a projection of himself, which isn't really the real him. He's stuck in a Christ box trying to break his way out. So yes, it does annoy me very much so that we have on the surface this very nice Jesus Christ is Lord type message, where the Jesus type Christ is Lord message actually just gets kind of lost underneath it all. Should it matter so much? I mean, Christ's name is being proclaimed there. The message is continuing to appear. But is it the right message? Does the message get lost underneath it all? And I have no problem really with the changing of stories to make the nativity story a nice, neat, single story. I mean, there were stories told with that kind of purpose at the start anyway. As long as you're putting certain elements into it, you can still get a lot of good meaning out of one nice flowing nativity narrative, without losing too much of what you get from the different narratives. And storytelling is a great way of getting to truth. And we're talking about divine truth here, which we really have no way of directly getting to. So our imprecise stories are always the way of trying to get that message across. Even if you were able to tell a story in a perfect way, we're not really able to receive that in a perfect way because us as receivers aren't perfect interpreters of a text or a story either. We're trying, what we have here is the breaking through of the impossible, really, of God trying to communicate directly to us, which is a kind of ear-bleeding experience for us if we were actually trying to listen to the divine directly. Which brings me on to one of my main problems I was having this time, and that was the figures of the angels, these very nice, dainty, little, fluffy, winged girls, which I'm not sure it's doing great for the stereotypical image of angels or girls, to be honest, because that's not really what angels were in the Bible. Angels were, it's the breaking through of the divine into the earthly. It's not that fluffy and nice. Everyone who sees an angel is pretty startled, and that doesn't mean that, we get the description of terrified, and then because they were terrific. And that could be very scary, or it could be awe-inspiring, but whatever it was pretty significant. Like the rupturing of our reality itself as something of God's is breaking through to directly tell us something. And maybe it would be good for both the image of angels and for girls if we had something of a more realistic angel in these nativity stories, but that might be slightly less fluffy and a little bit more terrifying. Yeah, I would like to see that. That would be fun. Some really realistic, big, booming angel interventions and, the other characters falling over and what on earth is going on here type thing. Delicate and mild angels were not, and delicate and mild my girls are not either. So, that fits in quite well. Angels can be boys or girls. If anyone's ever seen the film Dogma, you'll have an image in your head. For anyone who's not, you can see Dogma and have a different way of viewing Alan Rickman from now on. Anyway, so we're in the narrative of the nativity story, and something big is happening here. God is breaking through into the world to disrupt its order. It's not this nice little easygoing story. It's something which is difficult for us to get into. It's difficult for us to digest. No matter how many times we hear it, it should still be something which is difficult for us to know exactly what's going on here. We've got this homeless baby being born into the world to be a king without an earthly kingdom. The divine breaking through to shake up the characters of the world and how things are going to be ruled. There are omens here in the gifts of the Magi about something not just like, oh, here's some nice presents for this baby who's going to be a king. And we have the earthly powers, Herod in the case of Matthew's Gospel, who want to brutally destroy any attempts to usurp his power. It's highly political, it's highly provocative, it's theologically revelatory, and it's deeply personal as well. It's a challenge to the way we understand our lives and they understand the way that we're meant to live. How we understand and relate to the nature of power when even God himself puts himself in that lowly place. The Messiah born among the animals to disrupt our understanding of reality. The king born in the lowest of places, and the wise men showing that king was a king born to die. The ordinary shepherds being called to be witnesses of the birth of this refugee Christ. And we are called to repeat this powerful message in the world today. Not just through the stories that we tell of Christ, but in the example that we show of him, in the way that we live our lives, in the way that we love our neighbour, not just because of this idea that God could have been present. That could have been God chapping on your door with Mary and Joseph looking for a place to stay, but because actually God is in there in his creation. There is God present in the lowliest places, the most vulnerable places. God is there. In the highest of heavens, God is there. So live like every interaction matters, because every interaction does matter. God is present in the world. God is still present in the world, and he is present in all of us. We are that body taking Christ through the world. Creation is that outpouring of God, and we are all part of it. So it's not living as if it might be God who is there visible in that stranger, but because God is in there in that stranger. We love our neighbour because that is the project of creation. That is what matters. To love the Lord your God with all your heart and your soul and your mind, and to love your neighbour as yourself. Because in so doing, that is how we show our love. That is the fulfilling of the law. God was born into the world to show us that their way of understanding power and interaction was quite fundamentally flawed. The king born among the animals, the king who would die at the hands of his own creation. God present in the world. And that's how we should take the Christmas message, moving on from Christmas, on to the rest of the year, that God is there in the world. And how we interact with it is how we show our faith in him. Now, thank you, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the Christmas period and find peace and rest and are able to recoup and look forward to the new year. And I hope to see you all very soon. So a Merry Christmas and a happy Boxing Day, and love to you all. Bye-bye.